How you feel about all that, man?
Well, what I feel about the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was going to do something and they're going to say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, the reckoning, or Diddy, the reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac, you understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in.
But at the end of the day, if Snoop's going around saying he went to the hospital and had a conversation with Pac, that is a flat out lie. Reason why that was a flat out lie, Pac had already passed away before Snoop left my house.
Was an open secret in Hollywood.
Did you know about Diddy, Pierce?
No, I didn't. No.
We really are just getting to the beginning of everything. People at the upper echelons of society and politics knew about this and they were okay with it.
I said there's a race piece to this. And people, by virtue of being black, are asked to denounce Diddy because they're supposed to be representing blackness in the black community.
It's amazing, Mark, that you always see.
When Gene Deal finally broke his silence, he leveled no direct accusation. Yet the silence itself, once broken, revealed something more unsettling than any allegation could. It raised the possibility that footage existed which was never intended to surface. And once that possibility entered public conversation, attention shifted, not to what had been shown, but to what might have been deliberately kept.
Feel about the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was going to do something and they're going to say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, the reckoning, or Diddy, the reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac, you understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in. You got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy, from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand? When it was Puff, Heavy D, and Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Jessica was the reason why those kids lost their life, because she locked the door on those kids running down the steps. You understand? You could see her name in a news article, but they didn't mention nothing about her taking place, but they try to put Heavy D, God bless the dead, out there and they put Puff out there. You know what I'm saying? She should have been the main one because she is the one who locked the door on the kids. You understand? She is the one who locked the door on the kids, and all those kids lost their life. Had she not locked those doors, not one kid would have lost their life. Not one kid would have lost their life. And that's what happened. So the feelings that I have about the documentary, man, it was just old news, and they took a couple of with the footage from Puff from the days that's leading up him to get arrested, and the incidents with the people from the courts. You know, the two people from the courts. So it was nothing new. It was put together pretty good.
The most damaging evidence in modern scandals is rarely uncovered by investigators. It's often created by the subject themselves. In this case, the footage at the heart of the controversy wasn't leaked by adversaries or seized by authorities. It was reportedly filmed voluntarily, during a period when confidence ran high and control felt assured, a time when Sean Diddy Combs, according to these claims, believed any resulting narrative would ultimately work in his favor. That assumption, if true, shaped everything that came after. Once a camera captures intent, posture, and setting, control quietly passes from the person being filmed to whoever holds the footage. The takeaway is uncomfortable. Power doesn't always fall through exposure. Sometimes it falls through overconfidence. when self-documentation replaces discretion, who really controls the truth, the person on camera, or whoever eventually gets to interpret it?
For was crazy, and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got. I was doing footage. I had pictures, all the stuff that I had. You know, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. If you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, yo, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay. He determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you, because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, you know what I'm saying, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burrows giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Get out of here. I know what kind of dude you is anyway. Me and you cool and everything, Kirk, but don't call me about no business with this stuff like that. And then what I found out is that he was making a deal, cutting a deal for himself as well as Tim. You understand? And I was trying to get a deal for all three of us. You understand? So that's how them industry cats go. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it like this. So then he called me back again, and I told him, like, listen, man, don't you ever call my phone again, Kirk. You know what I'm saying? Because we had got into it about somebody calling him. He told me Groovy Lou called him and wanted to know why Gene's still doing this to Puff and everything like that. And I mentioned it on the Gene Deal show. You understand? I said something. Then he called me back.
When Gene Deal spoke publicly, he offered no formal accusations, only implications. And those implications spread faster than any confirmed fact. As a former bodyguard with reported proximity to moments most people can only speculate about, his suggestion that not all footage made the final cut was enough to shake public perception. This is a dynamic the industry knows well. Silence can shield, but selective silence can just as easily implicate. The ethical tension is subtle but real. When someone wants close to power hints at unseen material, the burden shifts from evidence to imagination. In a media environment built on reaction, how much weight should an unverified suggestion carry?
But at the end of the day, if Snoop's going around saying he went to the hospital and had a conversation with Pac, that is a flat-out lie. The reason why that was a flat-out lie, Pac had already passed away before Snoop left my house. Snoop came to my house, and he didn't volunteer to come out there. I called and told him, get your ass out here right now. He came to my house first. Tupac's mother was at my house. We walked back by behind the two pool houses, guest houses, and we had the conversation that I said last time. Snoop didn't throw up in no hospital. Snoop threw up in my backyard by the guest house, the pool house. Pissed me the fuck off. The thing he said about he was gonna name, if it's a boy, after Tupac, he said that in front of me and Tupac's mother at my house. For anything outside of that, who knows what he did when he left my house. But if he went to go visit Tupac, Pac was already gone. And he didn't have no conversation with Tupac. And if he would have had I don't believe he went there. because every person went to go visit Pac. It's pictures, it's footage. No matter who went, I had never seen any pictures or footage. But what I would say 1,000%, he did not talk to Pac. He didn't have a conversation with Pac. He had already passed away. What I would say 1,000%, Snoop and Tupac was not on great terms. What I would say, if you did all these things and you care about the homie Pac.
Snoop Dogg's name entered this story not through documentation, testimony, or allegation, but through history. Decades in the industry have placed him at the crossroads of multiple eras, alliances, and rivalries, making proximity to major figures almost unavoidable, and neutrality hard for outsiders to read. During moments of industry-wide reckoning, familiarity is often mistaken for involvement, and simple longevity can start to look like circumstantial evidence in the eyes of the public. The implication isn't legal, it's cultural. As accountability movements widen their scope, do they sharpen our understanding of responsibility, or do they blur it by drawing in people whose only real offense is having been present?
Suge, happy to have you back, my man.
Man, I ain't with nowhere. I'm closer than you think.
Yeah, man, I had to run it back. I mean, the people rock with you, so, it was only right, man. So I gotta ask you, because over the years, man, there's been a lot of confusion. When Tupac got shot in Vegas, was Snoop at the hospital?
So, Snoop didn't go nowhere near the hospital. So when it happened, as you know, for some strange reason, but now we know the real reason, Snoop did not attend the fight with us or the club, the after party at Club 662. And it was so crazy about that, we thought it was strange that he wasn't there. This is the first one he did attend. And according to Warren G and everybody else, now we know why he didn't. But to get straight to the point was this. I was at my house in Vegas, and I started calling Snoop, telling him, hey, what's up? Like it's something wrong with this situation. Pac in the hospital, come holler at him, come check on him. So he drove down, and I was at the house waiting on him. And Tupac's mother was at my house. So we back by the pool, and in the pool area is like two big guest houses. So as when Snoop come up, and there's other people out there, we walk in the back to talk. As we start talking, I said, I'm on him. Like, man, why you ain't here? You should have been at the hospital. And then Tupac's mother was there, the Fanny. She was like, yeah, I know you should want to see him.
Old accusations carry a particular weight, not because they bring new information, but because they arrive loaded with unresolved emotion. Suge Knight's long-standing criticism of Snoop Dogg, particularly around his affiliations following Tupac Shakur's death, has lingered for decades, resurfacing each time the industry revisits old wounds. These claims were never formally investigated, never proven, and never quite forgotten, creating a loop where repetition stands in for resolution. Question worth sitting with: when old grievances resurface during a new crisis, are they genuine revelations or just echoes that distort more than they clarify?
He hates me, so I feel bad, and that's why I didn't go up there. And Tupac's mother said, well, look, Pac was mad at me too for a few things I'd rather not swear to, some stealing shit, she said, right? But we all do that with our mothers. So she said, well, he was mad at me too, but that's my son, I'm there. And if he hates you, you still want to go do the right thing and go visit him, right? So as we start talking, Snoop did start crying and fell down and start throwing up, like literally throwing up, right? So we looking at him like, damn, what happened to this dude? So once he get up and explain to him, and we didn't think weird, nothing weird. We just thought he really emotional right now and he throwing up, So when he got himself together, we were still talking to him. Pac's mother says, it's gonna be all right. He said, look, Boo Boo is pregnant. That's Shantae, Snoop's wife, by the way. That's the homegirl. She good people. So he told both of us that Boo Boo's pregnant. If it's gonna be a boy, he gonna name him Tupac, after Tupac. She had a boy, and they named him Cordell. That's Snoop's last son with her. So, I don't know where you get all the extras from, but they had a conversation at the hospital and all that. That's absolutely not true.
Online narratives don't need confirmation to gain traction, they need momentum. In this story, the pattern was familiar. A suggestion became a headline, the headline became assumption, and the assumption hardened into belief. Talk of hidden footage and unverified flash drives moved quickly from speculation to near certainty in spaces where verification is treated as optional. The risk here is systemic. When implication outruns documentation, accountability starts to feel performative rather than precise. If truth demands patience and rumor demands none, which one is the modern audience actually rewarding?
So glad that what's his name did this, 50 Cent did this. And by the way, if you're thinking that he's going to take shots at Bieber and J-Lo and any of that, or Leonardo, nothing like that happens in this documentary. It's not that documentary. I think those guys were probably protected to not show what the Bieber thing is and what the other stuff is. But you really learn about this guy's character and the ties with the mom and who the mom was and beating him up, and the dad being a former mobster. And they used to say that dad was a former FBI informant working with Frank Lucas. You know Frank Lucas from American Gangster? Apparently Diddy's dad has ties to Frank Lucas. If you type in Diddy's dad, Frank Lucas, zoom in a little bit, Rob. Was an associate right there. Diddy's father, Melvin Earl Combs. Melvin was an associate of drug lord Frank Lucas. You know who Frank Lucas is? $275 million.
He was doing heroin and flying everything back and forth to Vietnam.
But allegedly, Diddy's dad was an FBI informant, is who he was.
Wow.
Okay, allegedly, Diddy's dad was an FBI informant. So, some people are saying maybe Diddy was protected all this time because maybe he was also an FBI informant. The guy said, every room you went into, he recorded everything. Every room you went into, he recorded everything. So listen, all in all, it's a great documentary to watch. If you're following, the only reason I follow the story is because I only one reason I watch a documentary is because I want to see what the ties were with Tupac. And there's a whole section that has to do with Tupac. A whole section tied to Tupac. Anyways,
where does this go from here? Because 50 had this footage. Somehow he got this footage.
Yeah.
What was Diddy charged with? Meaning, what was he found guilty of?
He's going to do 4 years and he's going to be free, which is...
So by the time there's another election, Diddy's going to be free?
And by the way, there's a whole section where they interviewed the jurors.
Okay.
The jurors sided with Diddy.
What do you mean?
You have to see what they're saying in the documentary.
They sided with
Diddy?
They
sided with Diddy.
In what capacity?
Because they felt bad for him. They're just trying to take advantage of him. They're trying to take money from a rich guy, and that's all this is. It is a conspiracy. He wouldn't do such a thing. The jurors were siding with Diddy, which it's a spectacle. By the way, the guy's going to get out and he's going to put a big party together. And
the documentary itself is frequently described as explosive, but its defining trait is actually restraint. It stays focused on documented patterns, verified testimony, and institutional conduct directly tied to Sean Combs. It does not present footage implicating Snoop Dogg, nor does it suggest legal exposure beyond what the available record supports. That omission isn't accidental. It reflects editorial limits shaped by verification rather than speculation. In an era quick to equate omission with cover-up, how often do we mistake responsible
beginning of everything? There are a lot of people who have been named that have not been brought to heel, people that were above him, music executives. And none of this is shocking, really. I think, yesterday a report came out that showed that faith in the mainstream media is at an all-time low, right? I think something like 65% of Americans no longer trust the mainstream media. The Diddy case is a perfect example as to why that is. You have people that spent so much time defending this man. This man was a allowed to be with every presidential candidate. He was allowed to throw parties. He was hailed as a hero. And yet behind the scenes, everyone knew that this is what he was engaged in. This was an open secret in Hollywood. In fact, when Kanye last year said that he was a Fed and started speaking about some of these allegations, he was simply dismissed as crazy. People at the upper echelons of society and politics knew about this and they were okay with it. Fundamentally, because he was acting a part, I very much believe what Kanye alleged, that he was acting a part like Jeffrey Epstein, in which he was collecting blackmail over various people that were in Hollywood. And so, like I said, we're at the beginning. We're scratching the surface of this scandal. There are some more big names that are going to have to answer for it. And I think also the silence of certain individuals like LeBron James is quite
saying and talking about things that I know and things that I've heard. And if you want to ostracize me, criticize me, and come at me because I'm saying what I know or saying what I heard, it is what it is.
I don't know. That's not the issue here. What I'm trying to find out is I'm an LA kid, okay? So I grew up, Tupac was my guy, but I also like Biggie. Right. You know, I really like I really like listening to Biggie's music, but I'm a Tupac guy. I have a painting in my house, 15-foot painting at commission. There's 8 people in that painting. One of them is Tupac. It's Tupac, MLK, JFK, Abraham Lincoln, the Shah of Iran, Senna, Milton Friedman, and myself in the painting. That's the painting right there. You'll see right there. Tupac's in the back, and I'm speaking to him. I'm whispering to him, and we're laughing. We're enjoying each other's company. I've always been curious to know what happened and who took him out. And I've always had a feeling that the motive, when you think about where the motive would be to get rid of somebody, Diddy's always been on that list of being a motive. But let me go
Don't you think it's higher than that, brother?
Of what?
Than Diddy?
Meaning somebody higher than Diddy took out Tupac?
Don't you think it would be higher than somebody like Diddy? You know what I'm saying? What would be the motivation, you understand, to give some street people $1 million when Tupac, before his death, was doing an audit on his company because he felt like